Hello, and welcome to episode 49 of What If Civilization Started Over. Let's get into it. Welcome to the first episode, the first part of World War II. As you can see, after I get the capital layer on, the both of these alliances, the fascist and communist alliances, have invaded Iran, both. And the red one is a communist rebellion, and the orange one here is a fascist rebellion. Yeah. Let me put the alliance layer on, and let's start with this war. So the Iranians are able to push back the fascist rebellion up north pretty quickly, as there's less fascist troops up here, because many troops from the fascist alliance have to go through here to get down here. That's definitely an issue. What's also an issue is a lot of these fascist countries are landlocked, while the communist ones have a lot of coastline, so it's easy for them to support their rebellion. With that, the communist rebellion is actually winning down south. And they are having big successes in the Yellow Country, which they just started invading, and they make a big encirclement of their capital. This encirclement goes very, very well for them. Maybe it doesn't go there, but still, they're doing pretty well. Also, in these Arabian areas here, they're also doing very well, the communists. They also try to make a spearhead towards the Iranian capital, but like the Yemenis in World War I, fail. But they don't get fully pushed back. Oh, and these two countries here, these guys are barely getting any support at all, so they just get invaded. They're kind of very small. Who knows if they'll even survive? And, yeah, it's not going very well. In the Indian area, the orange Indian country will be pushing into this area here that the Yemenis once had, and this blue country will also be pushing in. Over on this front, though, some troops are going to be supporting the Iranians because of their close friendships with them in the past, before the fascist governments took control. So the Iranians are able to push back, and the blue team's capital is actually taken, which in the end will make the front lines look something like this. And using that, they would try to make a spearhead down towards the blue team capital. In the orange country, the orange country is pushing in and attempting to take back the blue team capital, and also pushing down, trying to make a small spearhead towards the capital of Iran. So some of those troops would go very far in before Iranian troops would cut them off and capture them, sending them to camps around the world. This frontier is kind of threatening for the Iranians, because they know if the communists and fascists working together cut off this area, then their Arabian area will be cut off. And the communists are also doing another plan to cut off the entire Arabian area. And the yellow team, being kind of weak, gets cut off. And the yellow team in the north kind of surrenders, so the communists can push into the Arabian area. Iran will also send more troops down into the Indian area and start pushing back the Indians. They'll be pushing the orange ones back greatly, and also the blue ones. They will also start to push back the purple. They feel like that these areas are where these two ideologies formed, and the ruler of the fascist alliance is probably this country, the yellow country, and the ruler of the communist alliance, I'd say, is either the pink country or the Thailand country. Yeah, the communist one is smaller, and this is a major threat. The encirclement here, did go pretty well, but unfortunately for the communists, they get pushed. This encirclement is pushed back with Iranian troops arriving, and they do push back out to the Persian Gulf. But they still can't send their troops through here. But Iranian troops are having immense naval battles in this area, and eventually, after big naval battles, the Iranians will make landings here, here, and here. These landings will go successfully, kicking the communists out of Arabia, and also making a foothold to try and cut off this area. this major area with a bunch of troops in it. As these troops are trying to continue to push down and try to make it to India as quickly as possible in order to connect up with their supporters. The Indian countries aren't doing very well in the Indian theater. I don't know if it's the right term, but still. The Orange Indian country is actually fully pushed back, and the capital of the Orange Indian country is taken, and now it's pretty much occupied by the Green country. And I'll color that in. Actually, no. Yeah. The Iranians are also pushing to this Blue country, which get cut off from support, and yeah. Both alliances are kind of working together, but they also kind of aren't. But with a bunch of troops going down into India and trying to take out the Communist alliance, the fascist rebellion up here will be pushing back greatly, but they won't be able to get into some of the core territories that the original Iranian Union got. And then they do start to push into those areas, and yeah, it'll make basically the sort of Central Asian rebellion. And also the other Orange country's forces will be pushing into Iran. The Iranian forces will also be able to push into and take the entirety of the Blue country, like that, and start pushing into the Yellow country a little bit, and the Orange country, and even the Pink country. The spearhead here, though, doesn't go so successfully, as the Green country will also be pushing back. So currently, this war is very, very mixed. Over in this frontier, the Iranians are winning, and over here they're not winning as much, especially up here. But then another thing happens. This happens, these two areas connect, and over 1 million troops, communist troops, are stuck here. The Iranians make naval blockades and start to make more spearheads, splitting the communist area in half. The Arabians will also be able to push in here, and eventually, after a long time of fighting, this area will fall to the Iranians. And this area will also be very close to falling, but it won't quite fall. But this area, though, is able to hold out against them. What is that still doing there? I can color that in and fix that, like this. Yeah, lots of stuff are happening. But then, there's more and more pockets of fascist rebellions will be popping up throughout Iran, specifically close to their capital. And these are very, very big rebellions. Like hundreds of thousands of people kind of big. And this one connects up to the fascist rebellion, the main force, and all of them eventually will connect up to the main fascist force. And also, an encirclement of thousands of troops is made. And, that happens. And Iran is in panic mode, so they will send a bunch of troops from this giant side of their country to go fight in the capital. And with this happening, all of the fronts over on the eastern side of their country will be falling. The Green country will be taking a bunch of land, and these countries will be able to push back a lot. Even this country here. But they're still holding out in India. They see that as more value. And so if we take a look at this is going great. And the Iranians will be pushing back against the fascists here and be able to push up here and taking all these troops. And then the Iranians will do something to attempt and make this war just a little bit easier on their side. They're going to be calling for a certain alliance to stop the fascists, to end the fascist regime of Europe. An alliance that's pretty big, but kind of recently formed. Because, they feel like they need to stop the Right Triangle Alliance together. The main force is the White Triangle Alliance. Iran might be able to take on the level 4-point Star Alliance, the White Triangle Alliance. So then, the Diamond Alliance declares war on the White Triangle Alliance. Quickly, the operation sets in as Chinese troops will flood into the Yellow Country as well. And the Green Country will also be flooding in to the Red Country and reaching this lake and taking a bunch of its territory. Also, over here, the Blue Team troops will be pushing into the Green Team to try to take back as much of their territory as they can. And quickly, these two, I'd say sort of weak-ish, not getting much support, Chinese countries, will be falling, as all of these troops from the Diamond Alliance will be pushing into the Fascist Alliance that the symbol is with white triangles. Yeah. Why did I say it so complicated? I don't even think I said it right. They will be pushing into the White Triangle Alliance. And this is going to make the White Triangle Alliance mad. And they're going to call on the communists in order to help and stop the Diamond Alliance. Unlike another Sun Wixo's world, it is pros, the communists and fascists have pretty good relations with each other, specifically in this war. So, after the proposal of their two alliances joining forces to stop the Diamond Alliance, the Communist Alliance accepts, and the Pink Country starts sending troops into the Yellow Country. Quickly, they will be able to push up, and troops will be flooding from Indonesia all the way up to here. But this will also cause a pretty big pushback in India, as this country here, this country's capital is taken, and a pretty big chunk of this country is taken. Yeah. But in the south, though, the Yellow Country will actually be unifying with the Orange Country in order to keep themselves alive, and the Yellow Country will actually be pushing back the Iranians a little bit. And also, if we go over to, Iran, again, this area is fully kicked out of Arabia, and eventually this rebel force, will be forced to surrender. So the Communist Rebellion has officially been taken down. And now the Iranians can send all of their troops over to the fascist front and all basically throughout India. They value India. And then they also send some of those troops up to fight the fascist rebellion, and this goes pretty successfully. And so the war has been pretty much focusing on Asia currently. Iran is doing pretty well, as you can see. They've taken out a big chunk of India. Yeah. But then another alliance will be joining in on this war to stop the evil regime of the Iranian Empire in the Middle East, and possibly try to gain a puppet within this capital city. And what country specifically will be doing this? If you watched my series before, you might recognize the symbols. But the Circle Alliance declares war on the Star Alliance. So quickly, Israeli troops, the dark red Israeli troops, will be pushing in, and all of these Arabian countries will also be pushing in to the Star Alliance. This is a pretty surprise for the Iranians, as they did not expect the Circle Alliance to declare war on them. Yeah, and because of this, the Iranians will be sending some troops out of India, which they have to do it. They feel like India is a pretty valuable area to keep, so with some troops evacuating, some will stay in order to keep some of their Indian areas, but in the Indian front, it's getting pushed back a little. Yeah. Also, the fascist rebellion will be able to actually reach the Caspian country, and the Caspian country can't really do much about it until they are doing something about it, as they're pushing back. In the Caspian Sea, the Iranians have access to it again. Then the orange country is being pushed back by the Iranians, and the capital of the dark blue team, which is now owned by the green team, gets captured, and the light blue country also has So think so. What is that? What is that doing there? I can erase that. But Israeli troops will continue to push in through this area. And then something else happens in Iran. Something big in the Middle East. A democratic rebellion from Arabia. This is a big rebellion. This rebellion is being funded not by anybody, apparently. Maybe they're being funded by the Diamond Alliance. A little. Only a little. Also, the Russians are funding them. And then they push and push and push, and they are doing very well. Which this operation will cause some of these Iranian troops to come and push back this country, where the Caspian country will push back, and the Iranians will ultimately be able to push back greatly in this area, which will cause the orange countries, or the fascist countries, to go in and take some territory by pushing back the Iranians. The green country will recapture the blue team capital, which has gone through many hands, and the blue team will also be able to push. The yellow Indian country will also be able to blockade this big area of many Indian troops. Yeah. Oh, and that coloring over, that was a mistake. And, these troops evacuate. They evacuate and go around. They attempt to escape off the island, but their original route was to go through here around India. But they turned too early and went through here, and all of those troops got captured. All of them. That was a significant portion of the Iranian country's army. And that is going to do a big blow to them. A lot of stuff. Well, and this democratic thing is actually fully pushed back, and the Iranians will call in full forces from every single civilian across the entirety of their country. Fight for the great empire. The empire across Asia. We rule. This is our continent, not anyone else's. Fight for our country. Keep it alive. Make it the greatest country to ever exist, ever. That was a speech made by the leader a couple days after this democratic rebellion was taken full control. And this speech will cause thousands, hundreds of thousands of civilians to sign up for the military and make dozens, hundreds of thousands of Iranian troops get added to the army. They don't have time to train, so their training is the battle. And as they continue, this country from the Diamond Alliance is taken. Wait, what? So, Iran just accidentally invaded that Diamond Alliance country. They realize that and go out immediately. China is actually pretty nice about it, and they barely even gave funding to this thing, so they almost forgot about it. That was private conversation. And with all of these Iranian troops flooding towards this area, they will reach the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah, they reach the Mediterranean. For, I think, the first time, the Iranians touched the Mediterranean Sea. Like, with the border. Yeah. And with all these troops, also some of them going into Arabia, the Iranians have the numbers. The Iranians went from barely having the numbers or the training. They have the numbers, and they're able to take out the blue country, the purple country. But the Yemenis country is actually, with their amazing logistics, are able to push them back a little. And this is also going to allow them to push into the yellow country and the purple country and reconnect with this sea thing here. Pretty sure it has a name that I don't know. And we'll just use, and they are going to spearhead towards the capital, going from one city to another, and they, with these strategies, they capitulate the yellow Indian country. Something that was a pretty big thorn in them. And then they do a massive sweeping thing in the tip of India country, and they invade Sri Lanka and take that. And now India is fully taken out by Iran. Iran has done something they've been trying to do this entire war, and they have finally done it. I think we should check back up on this front because the yellow team is able to push back the Chinese in the north pretty quickly. It actually make a spearhead towards the capital, but to counteract that, the Chinese are also making a spearhead towards their capital, and they're actually very close before they get cut off with their logistics and fall. Yeah, that's what happened. Over in this front, though, the overwhelming amount of Chinese troops would be able to capitulate these countries, and fascism does not belong in China. And the fascist alliance is sort of falling. And Iran is about to get even more help soon. They do a secret meeting with a certain alliance that I won't tell you, but you might know. Who knows? I'm going to possibly join this war against the Circle Alliance. But what alliance could it be? Now, tell you guys, wait. The overwhelming amount of troops that signed up for the military will be able to absolutely destroy this fascist alliance, as they still, some of them, about half of them have their training completed with this war, and also kind of like these troops that signed up for the military, their training is the war. So, they are able to push back greatly with the sheer amount of troops there are. And they're actually able to capitulate the blue country. So, it's forced to be taken by this country. Yeah. And so, the ideologies of this thing, the communist countries and fascist countries are kind of being pushed on two sides. But now let's talk about that alliance thing I was talking about earlier. Iran goes into a secret meeting with a certain country. And in that meeting, they discuss plans about that country's alliance joining this war against the Circle Alliance in order to take over Europe and control the world. If you're wondering what country they had this meeting in, Iberia. And about a week after that meeting, the Triangle Alliance declares war on the Circle Alliance, making the entirety of South America, North America, and Africa involved in this war. Quickly, Iberian troops will be able to greatly push into the Purple Team forces in Algeria, and they go very successfully. And the French are able to use their troops in order to push back down in Bulgarian colonies, and same thing with the Triangle Alliance Irish colonies. They are able to push up here, but the Bulgarians, they push back down here. But why did this just kind of happen so suddenly? But you know how these Bulgarians kind of left, quote unquote, left the Upper Alliance? They didn't leave. They were kicked out. Yeah, they were kicked out of the Upper Alliance. Then was the red team not in there? They left. They were the ones they actually left. Bulgaria was kicked out. And shortly after that, let's just see this. The Purple Team. Let me just say the Purple Team was kicked out. the reason I just said the purple team was because of editing reasons, and I don't want my personal information to be showed. So I'm doing this little thing to tell you what I was going to say. But we'll be keeping the alliance thing for simplicity's sake. So the red team is going to be sending troops into the purple team and actually able to cut them in half very quickly. And this is alarming for the purple team and this entire alliance because you're now fighting a two-front war. Iberian troops will also be able to prosper over in Colombia and Chile pretty quickly. And also over here as well. Yeah, with the Irish. There's not much fighting over in the desert, but there is a little bit. The Iberians will be able to do that. They'll be able to push almost all the way back, all the way to Carthage almost. And they will get very close. And they almost get to it before that happens. And all of these troops are captured and brought to prisons of war in Corsica. Yeah. But then some spies go over to Corsica to figure out that knowledge. And then the Iberians will send their troops. And they invade Corsica and take those prisoners of war back over to, Iberia in order to fight. And this is, Iranian troops will also be able to push into the rest of the Israeli country and Turkey, and also start to push into Bulgaria. But then, some of these troops start to get pretty tired of all of this. They don't want to fight anymore. So some of these troops, a majority of the troops that originally just joined the military a while back, will quit the military. They leave. That's right. Yeah. And this will be causing many of the fascist troops to be able to push back into Iran pretty quickly. Like the Orange Country will be able to push in, and so will the Green Country, which will, guess what, be capturing the Blue Team capital for the 100th time. The Purple Country will be able to push in, and so will this country here. Yeah. All of a sudden, it's not going very well for Iran, as the Israeli troops will start to push in and almost cut off all of these troops in Turkey, which would definitely be an issue because you're not getting those back if they get captured. Also, the Arabians are also being pushed back. Yeah, that's not going very well. These troops that signed up for the military are basically the only hope for Iran. Maybe not only hope, but one of the biggest hopes they had, and it's currently, as of now, failed. Yeah, that's not very good for Iran. But it also gets even worse for the Iranians because the Square Alliance just declared war on Iran, and the Diamond Alliance as a whole. And they take the capital of Caspia, and because of this, it's not going very well for them, as Iranian troops will also go in and to occupy this territory, so the Russians can't get it. But also, Iranian troops will also be invading into these two countries here. They are also not getting very much support from their alliances, so they're pushed back, and these two Turkish countries are fully taken over by Iran. And they also push into Bulgaria and almost reach Istanbul. They also take out all of this territory. But the thing is, this spearhead that the Israelis made originally has been successful. And now the Battle of Istanbul takes place. So Iranian troops will start to go in on the city attempting to take it as quickly as possible. They will quickly go in and take over the eastern half of the city. There will be a lot of fighting in this strait here, but eventually, after a couple months of fighting, the Iranians will make a landing on them, and this landing is successful. And eventually, after a few more weeks of fighting, Istanbul is taken by Iran, and now Iranian troops can start moving in to mainland Bulgaria. This is getting really bad for the Bulgarians, but it's about to get even worse because Russia has decided to declare war on Bulgaria. Quickly, they will be able to invade into them, trying to take back as much of the land that the Bulgarians took from them as possible. That they kind of sold over to the Bulgarians. I think they also may have gotten involved in World War I. Yeah, they did. And Blue Team forces will also be able to push down into Bulgaria, trying to take back as much of their old lands as possible. Bulgaria, having to send many troops back up to the motherland in order to save their country, is going to be falling over to the Europeans greatly. And quickly, maybe not quickly, after months of fighting, many of these troops will be able to go in, push into these areas, and the Bulgarians will lose the entrance to the Red Sea, and then the Iberians make an invasion into Yemen, officially making them have full control over the entrance to the Red Sea. And as Iberian troops will continue to push up, they almost reach Israel, and then they will be able, with the French's help, will also be able to push in and take almost the entire southern half of their colony. And now, Iberian troops will be hoarding into the Purple Team colony of Africa. And with troops trying to get back over to Europe, this colony is going to collapse for specific reasons. Rebellions, big rebellions, colonial rebellions against the authoritarian regime, the monarchist rule of the Purple Team. The entire Amazon rainforest will be rebelling against the Purple Team. The entire Purple Team colony's coasts are taken, and the rest goes over to the rebels. These rebels are from the Purple Team. And then more rebels will start to pop up in North Africa. Some of them, like this one, will be taken down, but not before the Iberians will be able to completely push back all the way into the Purple Team. As they take almost the whole North Africa, these areas are forced to surrender over to the Triangle Alliance. And all of these areas are captured. So all of the Triangle Alliance forces that are within Africa are all here, a majority of them. Silver Alliance forces, as Iberians will continue to push up into Egypt, they eventually capture Cairo and pass the Suez Canal, and now they're officially entering into mainland Israel. Africa is fully controlled by the Triangle Alliance. And then something else happens. A possible big mistake by the Iberians. The Iberians invade the rebels. They will quickly be able, because these rebels, eventually after a few years of fighting, will fall over to both the Iranians, Irish, and the Iberians. And now the entire Americas, all of Africa, almost all of Oceania, and a huge chunk of Europe are all controlled by the Triangle Alliance. What could go wrong? Let's go over to here because the Chinese are pushing back this rebellion. No, the spearhead, but in retaliation, the yellow team is able to push back over here. The yellow team also starts to get even better logistics and starts sending more and more troops down into India. So, an invasion of Myanmar begins. A majority of the original troops fighting that originally fought in the original attempts capturing for India before the yellow team took over have all died from many battles. The only troops guarding India were the few that were left that haven't quit. So that is how these invasions are so successful. By all of the fascist troops, fascist and communist troops, are able to almost fully kick out Iran out of India. Yeah. And that's a pretty big loss for the Iranians. And so is this. A huge Turkish invasion by Russia to take out Iran. They will pretty quickly take out this territory that they once owned. Why did they own that? I don't know. But the Iranians will also have a second battle of Istanbul, and this time it's not successful for them. And as these troops will slowly over time attempt to evacuate, but all fail, and then they just give up. They will give up in this war. None of the troops in Turkey want to fight, so all of the Turkish troops from Iran surrender. Yeah. Oh, but also the purple team. The purple team is pushing the blue team back greatly. Very, very greatly. Until Russian troops start to arrive in here, and then they start to get pushed back a bit. Yeah, that's definitely something. Until the purple team, again, pushes them not that far back, but like all the way back. And the blue team will make an agreement with Russia to hand over all of their territory into occupation. Basically the Russians are occupying this territory as well. Yeah, it's going not so well for the Circle Alliance. If we go back to these fronts here, this fascist rebellion is not able to be stopped. As it continues to purge, it will continue to push down and make a spearhead towards the Iranian capital. The orange team would also do a sort of similar thing, try to take out the Iranian capital. The green team will attempt to take as much territory as possible from the Iranians, and so will, everyone fighting on this theater. Yeah, all of them are fighting and beating the Iranian Empire. Yeah. If we go over here, the orange country is actually able to push these guys back over in the diamond lines. And the pink team is actually able to take out the capital of this country, which will force it to surrender. This is a pretty major move by this country, as this allows the pink team troops that completely destroyed India from Iran to directly fight with China, making them not in such a good position. If we go to this northern country here, which I haven't talked about in a little, their fronts are pretty much fully pushed out of the lake, and it's not going very well for them. That's good for if you're a fascist supporter. For me, who doesn't really support the fascists, but I kind of made this work. But you may be wondering something about this. Why is there no fighting on the red team side? But something has happened with the red team. There's a reason why this is happening. We're gonna get about that later, because this fascist country is continuing to purge down into the capital of Iran. And then more rebellions start to pop up in the entire eastern part of Iran. These rebellions are quickly taken down, but then they start to pop up everywhere. Arabia, taken down. Yeah, everywhere. They keep getting taken down, but they're strong. But there's one very strong one in Arabia, in the southern parts, that is not able to be stopped. This rebellion fully pushes out the Iranians out of Arabia and starts to attack the yellow team. Now it's time to talk about the red team. There is a reason why this border looks like this. But the red team made a secret deal with Russia. So this is the deal. The red team give up a bunch of your Germanic areas to Russia / release them, a bunch of them, and for us to have control and influence. And in return, you'll get to join the Square Alliance and fight and get all of France and parts of Iberia. The red team agrees to this. We won't see what they get until the peace treaty. So, the red team will leave the Triangle Alliance whilst they keep the icon for reasons and invade into France. This is very surprising to everyone because the red team is our ally, according to everyone. And, the French get pushed back greatly until they are not pushed back that far. They get pushed back again, and now the front lines look something like this. And that is going to do it for today's part of World War II. Welcome. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. See you in the next episode for the next and final part of World War II. Bye!